It is indeed the last full day before the 2022 midterm elections, and what a day it is, a truly packed program. And we are going to be talking about in significant detail tomorrow, really what is at stake in this election. But for today, we are going to contextualize it. We'll contextualize it by looking at some of the final Democratic and Republican rallies and some of the final polling as well. And one bit of polling that came out over the last couple of days that is particularly disturbing is the degree to which this country, the United States, has fallen into a veritable cesspool of conspiratorial thinking when you really don't need to find such conspiracies to understand what it is that is going on in the country. And as is often the case, conspiracy theories have some kernel of truth in their origin, but take people very much in the wrong direction in terms of their beliefs. And let me make it very concrete for you. A new poll shows that 44% of voters see a secret cabal that is controlling the federal government. When you look at this poll of 1,000 registered voters conducted at the very end of October, you see that 44% overall, but it's not that dramatic a difference between Republicans and Democrats. 53% of Republicans, 41% of independents, and 37% of Democrats believe the federal government is controlled by a secret cabal. The thing about this is you don't need a conspiracy theory about a secret cabal. We know that overwhelmingly government and industry and regulators and the world of finance are controlled by those very corporations and the wealthy individuals that run those corporations. It's not a secret cabal. There's no secret here. Okay? These are the folks who have run things overwhelmingly in the United States for over 100 years. You could argue, maybe there was a brief period in the 30s and 40s during FDR when it was really the government was kind of governing the wealthy to a certain degree and not even really completely. The seeking the conspiracy to control secretly is what is disturbing in particular here, because you don't actually need to look very hard for who's really in charge. There was, I believe it was a Princeton study, and we covered it years ago, which found the legislative desires of corporations and of the rich are much more likely to be made into law than the legislative desires of the average person. So we knew this already. It's not a secret. It's out in the open. And where it gets dangerous is that you have myriad propaganda outlets and politicians and others who will take the kernel of truth, which is there are entities and individuals beyond just the average people whose desires are overwhelmingly reflected in how the country is run. That's true. And then that's where you get into shadow government conspiracy theories. And we've seen every version of this. Right now, it's kind of hot with Republicans, and Trump has been mentioning at rallies. It's the Marxists, the socialists, and the communists. He doesn't know what any of those terms mean, doesn't know the differences between those three terms, but he uses them. That's who is secretly controlling everything. And then if you think about it clearly, you go and you look and say, okay, if communists are controlling the US, first thing we should do is find communists. And then you go and you don't find any. There's no communists in positions of power in the United States. So you can very quickly debunk it, but that's what they're going to. And then you know the other ones, right? The Trilateral Commission, the Bilderbergs, the Illuminati, the Q stuff, and that theory about it's democratic pedophiles who are controlling the country. It's the Jews. That's a classic, as always. So what's so disturbing about some of this polling is that it is true that not everyone's desires count equally, right? Your desires and my desires for what we would like the law to be don't count as much as the desires of Apple as brought to the government by highly priced lobbyists. That's true. But the secret cabal, which lends itself to all sorts of xenophobia and racism and conspiracy theories, you don't need it. It's all out in the open. And of course, we know that when you believe in the subterfuge, when you believe in the conspiracy theory aspect of it, you often vote in ways that don't really make any sense because you believe things that simply are not true. So anyway, that's context to some degree for how people will be voting tomorrow. Before you go, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more, please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can click the subscribe button below or above or wherever it is on your screen. And if you want to support my work even more strongly, the best way is to get a membership at joinpacman.com and subscribe to the podcast for The David Pakman Show. There you can check out interviews, longer clips, and much more. It's on all the big podcasting platforms. Just search for The David Pakman Show, and all the links are also down below in the video description.